Hey everybody, welcome back to the second episode of Coast to Coast Traders Podcast. I'm Flexing Joe.
I'm Robbie.
And we're glad to have you back today. We got a few different topics we're going to cover today. So first, we're going to just get into the direction of the podcast and our vision, right? So obviously, we're hoping to have some fun with this, right? We want to provide some EDU content and everything, but also, I'm sure we'll talk about psychology of trading as well.
Absolutely.
And then I know, Robbie, it was really your idea, but you want to talk about the giveaway we want to do when we hit 1,000 subs?
Yeah, absolutely. When we hit 1,000 subs, we're probably going to do a live episode. And then I would say we're going to do a random raffle for a free Top Step 50K combine.
Hell yeah. So if you guys are trading prop, Top Step is definitely one that we highly recommend. They're a great company to trade with. So if you're not with them, you might want to check them out anyways. But definitely you want to make sure you're subscribed, right? So you can be in that first 1,000 when we do that giveaway.
And hit that notification bell.
Exactly. Hit the notification so you know when we're live. And then, also, I think there'll be some times when we do this live and it won't be pre-recorded. So that way we can have more interaction with the audience once our following grows. But for now, we'll probably keep these to pre-recorded videos that we just release.
Yeah, and we're thinking about maybe doing some Spotify stuff too, so maybe so people can share in the comments whether or not they actually watch or listen to podcasts on Spotify or where their preferred place of listening is. But for the time being, I think Joe and I both want to just kind of grow YouTube, and then we're going to consider doing Spotify in tandem like later.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we won't be doing any chart sharing today, we'll definitely use chart sharing in the future to help go over trades ideas, and even just indicators and wherever else for EDU stuff. So, I think that pretty much wraps up the direction, though, right? You want to get into our first topic?
Yeah, let's do it. Joe's going to be talking about percentage and options trading versus just the profit amount, and then I'm going to kind of chime in on my little point of view as well. So why don't you kick that off?
Okay, so I think it really starts with, social media, right? And how sometimes social media, especially most people trading are on X, although I know it's grown outside of that to, TikTok, Instagram, even Facebook groups, etc. But the thing is that, it's really common to see these huge percent gainers, right? 100% is a crazy gain on an options trade. But then you have times where it's 1,500% or just 3,000%, some absolutely crazy number, right? And coming from a fitness background, I'm very, very familiar with how toxic social media can be, because you just look at all these people and you're like, oh, they're perfect, this, that, whatever, right? They have these perfect bodies and they're totally in shape. And then so you can do the same thing with trading, right? Where you just see, oh, these folks are making 500%, they're making 300%, and I can't even make 20% consistently, right? And so
what's wrong with me, And obviously I shouldn't say nobody, but not many people are sharing the losses, right? Nobody wants to show that, oh, I lost 20% or 100% because this went to zero.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's so let's get into what the truth is, right? So when you see somebody who's posting a crazy gainer, at that point the majority of their position is probably sold. And I know this from having posted a crazy gain trade before, where I'm like, man, I just held this runner and it just keeps running forever. And there's two things that happen with that. And I think one, you kind of set up the rest of, the people who see that post, you set them up for sort of
unrealistic expectations.
Exactly. Yep. Took the words right out of my mouth. Exactly. Unrealistic expectations. But then also, what are you doing to yourself where you start thinking, oh, I should have held more of this position, and then does that come back to bite you the next time that maybe you're up 50%, you don't scale anything out, and then it comes back to break even and you're forced to cut it, having not lost any profits because you're holding for a huge win, right?
Absolutely. And that's where the growth of a trader is going to really show, because if you're not locking in your base hits and you're always hoping for that home run, what's the probability or percentage wise of you getting the home run versus if you just got those base hits here and there every day?
Yeah, exactly. And those base hits will totally stack up. Those 10, 20, 30% gains will grow your account exponentially over time, and you always want to lock in those profits. But the last part about it too, when you look at percent gains, is it's percentage of what? If you're smart and you've been around a while, you can look at that and be like, those were really far out of the money. So maybe, that big of a percent gain on a Friday, that was probably like YOLO cons. Like maybe somebody just bought 10 cons at $10 a piece. They just YOLO'd $100 on like a lottery ticket and it hit. But the majority of their position probably still was sold before that huge percentage number. So you really want to take that in consideration, because I know from my own personal trading experience, like, yes, I've had some crazy big runners, but I've also had trades where it's like, if you take a $300 contract and it goes up 20%, that's still $60 a contract. So you multiply that out.
Right.
That potentially could be a whole lot bigger than maybe a $10 contract going 400, 500%, right?
Yeah, and so it's good that you point that out, because when I was still in options, and actually when I made my first YouTube video, I was really gung-ho about using percentages as my stops and targets. But later on, I came to the realization that I'd rather have a fixed dollar amount, because I felt that was more consistent for me. And especially in options trading, when you're switching between strike prices and expirations and all that stuff, the delta is going to be very wild, and you're not realistically going to have maybe 10% on every single trade. So having a fixed dollar amount for me, that seems to work the best. And I translate that to futures, obviously.
Yeah, and that's especially for folks who are just starting out. And if you have a a smaller account and you want to control your risk, you may not be looking at it in terms of, I'm going to, risk 10% of, this one particular options trade. Maybe you should be looking at, if that's a 10% risk, or what's that dollar amount, and does that dollar amount coincide with what you want to risk from your account?
Yeah, for sure.
Because with a small account, it's very easy to lose 15, 20% of that account. And that feels like a big number, when you see it, even though it might be only $150, $200. For some people, that's a lot of money, right? So it's a lot to lose.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you can't fall into the traps and the pitfalls of many traders where it's a sense of greed and ego, where you might put on a trade and it might be a big trade, a great trade, and you look at it and you're like, well, my account would only be up 10% here. Why would I take profits? It's like, that's friggin' huge, right? Like, take the $100 on your $1,000 account and snowball it to the next one,
Yeah, for sure. And that's like, it really it compares similarly to when you're trading micros versus futures, or micros versus minis in the futures market.
Yeah.
Because especially if you are sizing down from minis. And we talked about last week how I was going through some finish line syndrome stuff. But also, you and I have been talking to various traders. I've been trading micros myself recently, and the profits obviously are a tenth of what you would be getting minis. So from a dollar perspective, it's like, well, this doesn't feel great. But in my mind, rather than thinking of the dollars, I'm trying to think of the points, because it's the same points whether I was trading micros or minis, and I'm trying to keep my consistency the same. So if I can just upscale it in my head, I know that if I was trading minis, then that trade would have been a huge day for me if I was trading the minis. And so I don't want to belittle the micro trade, because that's bad for my positive mind frame. It's like, it's belittling a good trade that was still fantastic by all accounts. The setup worked, whatever. I took the base hit, or I held more for a runner, or whatever it was. Like, if just treating it from the same perspective of just being consistent, no matter the size.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, it's the same thing. It coincides well with options, right? Because if you're taking good options play setups, and maybe if you only start off with 1 or 2 contracts, as you continue to compound and grow your account, your size that you're trading with grows, right? So if you're on a smaller account, and you're trading micros and you're consistently hitting repeatable base hits, kind of doubles trades, 15, 30 points on NQ pays really well consistently. So 15, 30 point trades on MNQ for a couple micros, or even one micro, right? It will still slowly but surely stack your account. The problem is that patience factor. People, it's so easy to be so impatient, and that's, your ego wants it now. Your ego wants you to have that money in your account yesterday, right?
For sure. And actually trading micros is really similar to minis in the same way you can expect, the 15 to 30% trade. Because it's funny, I shared with you a picture of an old options trade I had, and I'm like, look at this. I don't know what it was, like a half-hour grind for like $30.
Yeah.
And it was some AMD options contract, and it's like, dude, if that was a micro and I was grinding for a half an hour, it would have been more than $30, 100%.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because the chart was going up, but the options were they're not moving the same way. So, like, in a lot of sense, I really wish I would have traded micros, or I would have known about futures and micros before I learned about options. It's kind of a trap.
Yeah, it's funny how things progress too, because obviously I got into first trading commons, right, with the AMC thing, and then other commons trades as well, and then getting into options, and now I'm in futures, and I almost kind of wish that I had done it in like the other way, because if I had learned, I think trading and how to trade and good setups on like micros, it probably would have been the better course of action. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, because we would have lost a lot less money learning options and figuring out delta and data and all that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
for sure.
It's definitely, options are definitely challenging, but yeah, there's no reason for anybody to crap on the micros, because you can do a lot with micros. Recently there was a trader who told, there's been plenty of traders, but just recently there was a trader who was talking about passing an evaluation account on Top Step, and the minimum number of days to pass is 2 days, and he passed in 2 days, and he was just trading micros, right? So you can still do a good amount with micros. Now, I think he was probably trading 10 plus at a time, which is the equivalent of one mini, but it allows you the ability to scale and de-risk and lock in profit, which is good. Versus like with one mini, you're all or nothing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And for those people who have like really small accounts trying to trade options, it's the same thing. Like you're all or nothing. So you can't really. It's almost kind of like the beggars can't be choosers type thing, man. You can't be too, I guess, picky about it. Like if you're up 20% on a SPY trade, take your 20% and then like come back and compound
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we all got to learn when to take profit, and for most of us, that comes a lot later in the journey, I think.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I do really enjoy using that trading software that I've got, that Trader Sync, because I can look at the maximum favorable excursion and just kind of consistently see how much I'm giving back, and that's helped me to lock in more profit, especially as I approach like a resistance area or an area of concern, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, that's pretty awesome, because you're tracking your setups and all sorts of things with that, right?
Yeah, I really like it. It's good. I can track. You can track setups. At some point, we'll have to throw it up there and just kind of show people how it works. And I'll put like, some info up there. You can see where you can track the setups. You can track your mistakes. You can look at all the different data. You can see like everything from like time of day that you do best at, day of the week you do best, etc., etc. So it's pretty handy tool. That was worth a couple $100 for the year.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah. So, what else we got on the agenda? You want to talk about the video, the breakout or retest?
Yeah, so a couple of weeks back, I came across a video from Anthony Curdell. I hope I'm saying his last name right, but it was just like a quick, short, like 10-minute video with him and his crew. They were talking about whether or not they are breakout traders or retest traders. And for those that are in our House of Stacks group, that'd be the break and base. And I just thought it was interesting because, especially today, Maple mentioned that if you're if you're trading this breakout, then more often than not you're going to fail. And most of the people in that group were saying that they're retest traders. And I was really thinking about it, because I would say in my mind, prior to watching that video, I would have said I'm a retest trader. But it kind of made me think about how I'm trading certain setups, where I think you can actually you can preemptively trade the breakout in a controlled way. And we've talked about this in the group before. We're boxing the chop, and if we're in a zone for like a half an hour or longer, I want to see a candle on a certain time frame close above, and then I will use the smaller time frame for an entry.
Yeah.
So for myself, I would say I'm mostly a retest trader, but obviously depending on the time frame, my entry would look like it could be a chase in some ways.
Yep. Yeah, I could see that for sure. It's funny because I remember in the video, I think it was the host, so it must be Anthony. He was saying that like essentially breakout traders seem to be getting rewarded more in this market, like in this most recent period of time. And well, I went back and looked at some charts, and I can see that. Sure, like I can see that sometimes just like having a limit buy at the top of a range, and it's just like popping through that. And I know that's really common. I know there are a lot of traders who genuinely just trade that way. I want to say, is it Al Brooks? Who's that guy, man? What's his name? Gosh.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that name.
I think it's Al Brooks, man. I just almost want to like get on and look at the trading. I have his book, Trading.
Al Brooks. That almost sounds like a country singer.
Hold on. Reading price charts bar by bar. Dude, I'm gonna like legitimately search for this right now. But charts. Yeah. Al Brooks.
Okay.
He does sound it does sound like he could be a country star for sure. And maybe he is. Maybe moonlights as like a country western singer on weekends. But that's a big part of his strategy. Like I know he's been around. He studies 5-minute ES bars and has his own room and his own thing. And a lot of times he talks about like you're in this range and you buy the breakout and your stop is that bar is low and whatever. I don't know the rest of his system. Like I don't know where he takes profit or how that works. But I feel like me personally, if I look at a lot of ranges, there were plenty of times where I would just get stuffed. Like I feel like I would just take repeated losses. Yeah,
and if you see like common posts on social media, for breakout traders specifically, they'll show the typical chart with the highs and lows and stuff, and they're like buy here, and it's the breakout, right? But then their risk though is the bottom of that channel. And on futures, if you're buying a breakout, you can't risk the bottom of that channel. Well, most people can't risk the bottom of that channel because that's probably 50 points or more.
Or more, yeah.
Or whatever it is, right? So that's why, that's why I would say I'm mostly not a breakout trader. But I just, in different markets, maybe it's easier to do that. But futures, I would say, is a no-go for like 99.9% of people.
Yeah, no way, for sure. I don't think it's going to work out. There's other times too where, because they were talking about like the breakouts or the retests, and like sometimes where maybe we're inside of a range. If I think we're going to break out, right? Like let's just say we're trending upwards, and price action is bullish. Maybe we're up above VWAP, we're above the EMAs, but obviously to the left, you can see we haven't broken over maybe like pre-market high or previous day high. A lot of times. A lot of times, like I like to be long going into that, and I feel like those setups pay really well. And if we break out, like that will continue to run. But there's been a lot of times where I found that honestly, the best place for me to scale my position is like right before the breakout, because like what if the sellers step in, they step down, right, and they want to sell a little bit sooner, right? Where I feel like there are a lot of people waiting to sell just above and take profit just above the area break, and it's like, well, I would rather take a little less profit, but for sure get my profit. Be a little bit more conservative.
That's an excellent point, because Maple was also saying, what was this? Yesterday you took a really great reversal trade, and then in the group you were like, why did I take this trade? Well, we had already broken the pivot low. So in the same way. If you can trade like those breakouts on like the smaller time frame, when like I was saying, if the 5-minute closes over or whatever, and you take the smaller time frame to go long or short or whatever, that works especially well when there is a high, it's before another pivot.
Yep.
So it's in context, of course, right? Just like everything.
Yep. Yeah, that was the I think that wasn't. I don't think that was yesterday. I think that was Tuesday. It was the day before CPI.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
It was Tuesday afternoon. Yeah, because I was I was actually, it was kind of funny how that worked out because I caught 2 different 100-point NQ trades, and the whole time, dude, I was at work in my meeting on Tuesday morning, like, God, I'm missing all this good action. There was this good trade. There was this good trade. You know, and I'm kind of just like, oh, in this meeting, right? And then, like, you know, because I can't like watch it, so occasionally it'd be like, all right, bathroom break. Let me peek. Oh shit, I just missed 2 good trades, right? But
yeah, what a day, huh?
What a day. It ended up actually working out like pretty well. And then, I mean, today was another day that was atrocious too. But back to, I think, the topic at hand, like if I'm looking at like today's chart, if you were a breakout seller, maybe like below orb or below the lows, a couple times I paid a little bit, but there was times where it reversed hard, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, really tough day today, man.
Really tough price action for sure. But overall, the sentiment was bearish, and that's the thing to really kind of like look at, is that we just kept making lower highs. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I think the other part of it is like the reversal trades, man. Like those are really tough. You know, I know they weren't really talking about that in that video. They were just talking mostly about breakouts or retests, but you have that third option of reversal trades, and those can be pretty brutal too. Like you have to, in my opinion, you have to get in where like the risk is a lot lower than the reward, where you think it can go quite far. At least like even if you just targeted halfway of the range back up, that has to be substantially greater than your risk, because it could be low probability.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously you're going to need to have some key level or drawing that you've done to support that too, along with other things, whatever your edges are. I know we're both heavy EMA traders, but besides EMAs, you know, you'll use your gap fibs.
Yep.
You're going to do price levels that you draw all the time, you know, all sorts of things. So we need to have a lot of things stacked in our favor to take a reversal.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
So how about any of the traders that you've been chatting with on the side? I think last time, I actually can't remember if we talked about it on the pod or if it was just a conversation between you and I, but you had talked about a trader who kind of holds through some big red trades. Have you talked to them?
Yeah, so I followed up with them. Unfortunately, they didn't follow through on their resolution to stop trading combines, and they bought some more, and they blew through some more combines, I guess. And I don't know how many more they bought since I last talked to them, but they're at least in one right now. I don't know what the progress is, but I had asked them just various questions. You know, are you journaling? Are you charting? Are you using the brackets that we talked about? Maybe some more things, and ultimately the answer was no on all those things. And so it's like, well, dude, if you're not charting, then how do you know, like, how many edges do you have? Like, because basically his only edge in the market, he's trying to trade the 10 and 2 system, but like he's trying to rely on, I guess, price action only.
Right.
And for me, that was a really big ego thing quite a while back, because we want to all, in a sense, be masters of price action, I feel, because then we can maybe trade anything. And yeah, I mean, you can, but if you have multiple edges that's aligning in your favor, that's going to allow you to have more repeatable trades, more consistency, more profitability, you know, because it's repeatable.
Right.
And so they're relying on price action heavily. And initially we were talking about how they can maybe tighten up their stop losses because they were holding so deep. So they weren't using the brackets. They were holding through 20 to 40 points on trades, I think, yesterday. I kind of forget when I talked to them last in that regard, but they shared some trades. And so, yeah, both of the trades that they took, actually, I don't even remember if they worked, but I was mostly focusing on the fact that they weren't living up to the fact that they were saying, yeah, I want to start using brackets and I want to start tightening up my stops. So in both situations, whether or not the trades work, it didn't really matter to me because they didn't follow the rules that they were expressing that they wanted to impose upon themselves. So yeah, they were holding back more than they wanted to, but there was some good news in that they started journaling.
Okay, that's
and
good.
So so I'm like, hey, I'm stoked that you're journaling. Really great to see that. He had a clear thought process of why he wanted to take a trade and where he was scaling. I don't think I was seeing any emotions recorded in the trade, and that's fine because baby steps, right? But so far, they're gonna, I guess, hope they're gonna either pass that account or fail it, and I hope they pass it. But my suspicion is that they probably won't, and I'm hoping that they'll just take a step back and just switch to a sim account for a little bit rather than throw another $50 to paper trade.
Yeah, for sure. Because even if they pass it, what's the probability that they're going to continue on into a payout and subsequent payouts and find finding consistency is really hard, right? That's one of the things that most traders struggle with. I think the statistic is the 390 rules, right? Obviously with trading prop, it's a little bit different, but the 390 rule is that 90% of traders lose 90% of their funds in 90 days, right?
Yeah.
So, if this was a real cash account, I'm sure these trades would not be taken, right? Because I'm sure they're probably erratic, oversized, etc. But still, if it was a cash account, even with $1,000, that's the same price as 20 evals or 20 combines, right?
Yeah.
That $1,000 would probably be gone,
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, it just reminds me, kind of like listening to you talk. It's almost as if you had talked to the same person, that I had talked to, right? Because I talked to somebody. It's almost like we're describing the exact same stories, because they're having a lot of trouble with being disciplined, right? And I feel for that. Like I've had my moments too, and I've ultimately buckled down and understood that any of my frustrations or my problems with trading, the root cause of all of them is in the mirror, right? It's not the market. It's not this, it's not that. Is there sometimes just a crazy knife or a crazy wick or something that just whoop whoop and gets my stop? Sure, right? That's gonna
absolutely.
That's gonna happen, right? But everything else,
we got to take responsibility for our own trades, because it starts, like you said, right in the mirror.
Exactly, and it's Mark Douglas talks about, right, and not having fear and understanding that any trade can be a loser, right? And so you never know what's going to happen. And I've been rereading Trading in the Zone if you didn't pick up on it, but yeah, I asked him the same things. Are you logging your trades in any way, shape, or form? Are you really putting in the work to see what's working and what's not? Do you have your rules printed out or written out so you can read them before every trading day? Or do you just think that you can do whatever the hell you want and be successful at this game, which is probably the hardest game there is, right?
Yeah.
And his response, to answer your questions, I'm not consistent enough with logging trades. I don't read my rules every day. Some days I do, kind of seem to think that I can do whatever the hell I want and get, and he says, and I get put in my place when I have that attitude. So long story short, there's a lot of room for improvement, right? And then he goes on to say when he did back testing, and spent some time kind of reviewing, he passed an eval with ease. And then, he kind of gets frustrated, thrown off sides, and ends up losing the eval or the funded account, which is, of course, disappointing, right? I don't want to see anybody lose that, kind of lose that effort and go back to square one. But, he did say, he's like, I just need to be more diligent about my routine every day and start doing the little things. And they add up.
Yeah, if the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, well, if you're not logging your trades, you're not writing down your emotions, taking the screenshots of your entries and exits, and all that stuff, then what makes you think that you're going to pass?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what makes you think that you're going to have any different result like this time around, right? So you're just going to end up circling the same drain, wondering why you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think there is one other trader that I'm working with, and we haven't we haven't been able to really dive deep into the actual data, but through the conversation, it seems like we've identified that there is a time of day that doesn't seem to be working well for them. And I think that a lot of traders will identify with this emotion of like, oh, the bell just rung and the market's moving fast and I got to jump in. And he says that he likes that volatility. And I understand that, because if you're scalping small moves, 10, 20 points in NQ, you know, you can hear order filled, target filled like very, very quickly. But
before you even paste the screenshot, bro.
yeah. Or you hear order filled, stop filled, you know? And that's happened to him plenty of times too, unfortunately. And so what I've just been trying to push him towards is like, let's look at the data, because I think later on in the day, when things are moving slower and the picture is clearer, you perform better. I'm really hopeful that will shed some light onto his trading situation. And maybe for some of you, you know, I would, out there listening or watching, I would encourage you guys to look at your trades the same way, is try to find what's really working for you and what's not.
Yeah, 100%. On a similar note, with regards to talking to traders and that stuff, there is a kid that I used to. Well, he's not a kid anymore. He's an adult. But I used to play this game called Rust back in the day, and we stumbled upon this kid. He wanted to join our group, and he was 11 years old at the time. So I've kind of been like gaming with this kid for a really long time. He's like, I think he's like 20 now, maybe something like that. Maybe 21. So it's been almost 10 years, if it hasn't been already.
That's crazy.
And off and on, I've floated the idea with him about, you know, hey, you want to learn about trading in the stock market? And, you know, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. And then, you know, he kind of ghosted me for a while, because, we drifted apart. We're not playing the same games anymore. I'm an old man, and I'm not really playing much these days. But he hit me up out of the blue, asking about NVIDIA. And I told you about this guy, right? Yeah. It's funny because you were saying that people were asking you about NVIDIA, and we had that little mini conversation where it's like, oh, well, maybe that's the top because everybody's euphoric and feeling like they missed the trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just sharing with him some prop trades and stuff on the funded accounts, and kind of blew his mind with the profit and loss. And oh, okay. That
was weird. Did you
so
see
he's
that?
like, yeah, I lagged for a little bit, but it seems okay now. But anyway, so yeah, he's that really piqued his interest, right? And so he said, yeah, maybe it's something I'm interested in. And then I heard back from the other day, and I don't even think I shared anything, a trade with him necessarily, but he's like, okay, I think I'll have like $200 next week. And it's funny because I've heard that same kind of comment from somebody else, where they're ready to take that money and they want to instantly start making profit.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I got $200, or I'll have $200 soon. What do I do? And I'm like, well, first of all, you go to naturetrader.com and sign up for a prop account, deposit $20, and you pay $4 a month for data. And let's figure this out. But like, I could already sense that he was itching to make the money, you know, before he's ready to actually like learn the true pain of being a trader.
100%, bro. 100%. I was looking at the market one day, and one of my buddies, I was at work, but one of my buddies, he's one of my groomsmen, great guy. He was just like, he sees me looking at the market, and he kind of just like slaps me on the arm, whatever gets my attention. He was like, hey, if I give you $1,000, can you flip it for me? Like,
I've heard that too. Yep.
And I was just like, no. Like,
yeah.
I said, oh, I'll flip it to zero, buddy. Don't worry. I'll flip it to zero.
Yeah. That's funny.
That's the easiest thing, dude. It's like, you know, man, I don't want to go on that rant, but like people, you know, just, you know, like talking about how, you know, it's so easy to just run their account down, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah, well, they see you making money, and it's like, well, hey, can you do it for me, and I'll give you a cut? And it's like, man, I would love to help everybody, but it's hard enough making money for yourself, let alone I could only imagine the absolute stress you would have trying to make money for somebody else.
Oh yeah, like
and then if you lose it, it's like, I don't know what that money meant to that person.
No,
could have been a lot.
No, exactly. And like, I know this wasn't on like tonight's agenda, but you're familiar with Banana Stocks and his 30K to, I don't know what the end goal is, if it's 100K, a million or whatever, but like he's got like a 30K challenge, right? Well, like, you know, it's predominantly set up for his subscribers. So you got to sub to him and pay $40 a month. So like imagine, and he's not a financial advisor, right? Like none of it is financial advice. You're just sort of paying to watch. But the idea is that you would be doing the same thing. So at one point, that $30,000 account was down to like 16,000 because like everything was down. And then he posted an update showing like, oh, we're up the account's up 5K today. And it was like, but the portfolio value is only at 21,000 still. So like you're still down 9. I don't care that you're at 5. You're still down 9. So like I can't imagine trying to do that with somebody else's money. Forget it.
Yeah, that'd be insane. And it's funny because I think like I don't really know if this guy is a great trader or not. He's posting stuff and sometimes it works, but we've seen that he holds like he buys the dip. So I don't know. But I think we could probably both agree that rake trades is probably pretty decent. And he tried to do a small account challenge a while ago, and it failed. And I think part of the issue with more successful traders with these small account challenges is that the value of the small account doesn't mean hardly anything to them anymore. So if they blow that $5,000 or whatever it is, it's like, whatever, I'll make $5,000 tomorrow. But like for the guys that are watching that video, trying to like learn something from that experience rather than watching it for entertainment, it's like it's not quite setting those viewers up for success because he's not treating that money in the same way he would like if he was trading his full size.
Right. There's that whole concept of it's not sacred money to him, you know. He doesn't care. Most people, and that's usually a big problem for traders. They show up to the market with money that actually matters. That they're like, well, I could put this on my credit card. I could pay off a debt, but instead, I'm gonna try to go grow this money over here, and it's like, it's not gonna work out. That's not a good idea. It's not a good idea.
Yeah, sometimes I want to watch Wall Street Bets, but like, because there's so many insane stories about people YOLOing this and that, but it's like, first of all, I'm not going to filter through all that garbage. I'd rather have somebody curate that for me and I'll watch it on YouTube. But it's like, dude, some of these people are risking their house. And it's like, oh man, I don't even know what I would do. Like my house is the most sacred investment that I have at this point. It's like, if I just like, what am I going to gamble that because I want to, oh, no way, dude.
Yeah. I think, and you know what else too, is like, there's this weird sort of, I don't know, it's like fantasy type thing that people sort of get off on having like maybe this like absolutely crazy YOLO play that actually works out. Like, like Top Step Trader 42069 just turned, his last $1,000 into $1 million or something. And people are like, oh my God, like,
what's your strategy?
Yeah. Like, can you believe it? This is like, and just is like, people are like, what was your strategy? And they were like this.
Yeah, exactly. 100%, dude. There was zero. They got lucky as heck, man.
Yep. And there's a lot of luck that goes along with being in the market anyways, but that's just not gonna that's not a viable strategy for the long term, right? And I haven't checked lately, but I think that Rake Trades is in like the top 10 on Top Step.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great, dude.
Yeah, I'll have to check in on his channel. I haven't checked in on him in a while, but the dude definitely knows his stuff for sure. So
yeah. So I mean, mad respect. I didn't bring that up to throw any shade at all because I respect him as a trader for sure. But it's just those small challenges. Everybody values a certain amount differently depending on where we are in life, and it's hard to see those guys trade that way and then just like think, oh well, if I'm going to trade. I want to try to do it like he's doing it, but if he's not treating it like he is his full size, well, it's like, well, this is more of an entertainment video, I feel.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of small account challenges, though, I was talking to Maple about this because he actually brought this up, I think, over a week ago, and sorry for the dogs going a little crazy. My wife just got home, But he was talking about like only trading one mini contract on like a Top Step account and just showing like,
I saw that,
what you can do with just one mini. So like he started talking about it and I was like, yo, I'm going to jump in on that with you too. So I've been doing that. I have an account. I like, you can nickname them. So
right.
I nicknamed the account because it was a new account. And I nicknamed it one account or one con discipline, I think it was what it's called. So, and I've been trading that just one con at a time, striving to get like between 10 and 15 points. And it's honestly going pretty well. So like, I think I'm at like day 3 on it. I can't remember the exact balance, maybe like 16-ish hundred. But yeah, I mean, I'll keep you guys posted and we'll see how it goes. And maybe one day I'll like fire it up and show some trades or something like that. But I think the goal is just sort of, hey, just keep pushing this and one con at a time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a great challenge. I'm gonna be looking forward to seeing both of your results.
Yeah,
I'm sure you guys are both gonna kill it.
Yeah, I hope so. I certainly hope so. I've been, the one thing that, and maybe this is a good thing too, because there's plenty of traders who they get like into a certain point in the account where they've had over 5 days where they've made 200, and so they can take a withdrawal. But maybe they're not that high up and they don't want to like really ruin their trailing drawdown, right? Because once you pass 2,000 or you take a withdrawal, your stop moves to 0, right? Whatever comes first. So my thought initially was, if I break, whatever, I get to the 5th day and I've taken 5 days, I'm just going to take $400 off the top. And the reason my thought was like, well, it cost me $50 for the eval and $150 for the activation fee. I've just doubled my money regardless. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a good way to de-risk for sure.
Kind of makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I would recommend that for somebody for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's what I think I'm going to do
If
too.
it's their first though, I would say differently.
Oh, if it's the trader's very first payout?
Yeah.
What would you do in that case?
I take half.
You take half. For the experience.
Yeah, I think so, because you more than doubled your profit, right?
Yep. Yeah, so if you would you take half regardless of what the balance was?
Okay, yeah, that's a tough. Yeah, I guess that's a tough one.
Because it has to be, depending on how you've traded, right? It should be at least about 1,000 or so, right?
Yeah. You want to leave yourself enough rope to not to give yourself some leeway. So I guess that is tricky. I guess I can't blanket say how that's going to affect everybody, but
right,
for sure you gotta they want to take something off immediately as soon as they can.
Right. I'm gonna log into this real quick, and I'll see exactly what the balance is. So one con discipline has a balance of 1865 after 3 trading days. Great. Yeah, not too bad. So let's just say theoretically the next 2 days are only $200 a piece. I am my bracket on it. I've been shooting for 15. So I do a 1-to-1 bracket, 15 point risk, 15 point target. The only thing is that like once I'm above like 10, 12 points, I've been moving my stop to break even because. And so the trade count on the account is quite high because like it's been wiki and I've been I've been stopped out for like 20 points profit, or 20 points. No, sorry, not points, dollars. $20. Oh yeah, $20 loss or profit a bunch of times. So like I've taken a bunch of trades. And then sometimes I've just re-entered. I'm like, no, this still looks good. I think I got wicked out. Like I think I can still push, so I'm going to take it again. But I want to be sort of like on the conservative side, protecting the account. And that's what I hope to show people in the long term. But let's just say for the sake of it, if I hit another $300 each day, that would put the account roughly around $2,400. Taking the $400 off leaves me with essentially a fresh account. So that's kind of my mindset there, and just sort of showing people maybe in theory what you can take from that account.
And that's one of the great things about Top Step is not having to worry about the live trailing drawdown. Yeah. Because it's funny, you and I, we both, it seems, took that same trade at almost the exact same entry, I think. Yep. And neither one of us got filled, even though we were both one tick from getting filled. Dude. And we raised our stop loss, and it's like, are you kidding me? Yeah. But it happens sometimes.
Yeah, I'll have to like maybe splice that image in there or whatever so people can see it. So and then of course the market absolutely dumped from there. So it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it was the right thing to do
And
because we were long.
for me, it was within my system to like, because normally I won't touch my stop loss, but if it's within like a point, or especially within a couple of ticks, then absolutely I'm going to. That's just part of the game for me.
Yeah, and just how like with how violent the wicks and the changes in direction have been lately, and VIX is coming down. I mean, VIX is down. I mean, today it was down around 16. You know, when it's higher above 20, like, or in the 20 range, it's even more violent, right? But just with how it's been, I feel like I just got to play it conservative. I would much rather take a stop out than, you know, having been up maybe, because the target's $300. So having been up 250, 260, $270, and then see a full loss, like that's just
no way. Yeah,
it doesn't feel right, you know.
Yeah, and that used to be me. Like whether it was options or early on in futures, it's like, man, I wish I would have taken profit. Oh, maybe it's gonna come back. Now it's red. It's not coming back. I'll lower my stop loss. You know, that same stuff.
Exactly, bro. The worst one is when you get in a trade and then it goes a few points positive and then it starts to be negative. And then 2 or 3 times, all it does is like go a little hair above break even. And every time you're just like, man, this doesn't look right. Maybe I should just take it off, you know? And then you don't, and you take the loss, and you're like, I knew it. I should have just taken the trade off.
It's a tough one because, and maybe we'll have to do a different topic on this one day, but it's like, you don't want to get in the process, or you don't want to get stuck in the paper cut loop either.
No.
And flip-flopping. So it's like, sometimes I like, it's rare when I'll cut the trade, but like, you definitely sometimes will get that vibe, and sometimes you'll get lucky enough to cut it break even or red, but it's like, yeah, this was the right thing to do, but I also do want to be disciplined enough to accept the risk too. Yep. Because, you know, it does work sometimes. And if it's within your setup, well, you know, it happens.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think lastly, just before we wrap up this session, Robbie and I were talking about, you know, just me throwing out like a fitness tip in every one of these, right? Because I come from a heavy fitness background. So really quickly, today's fitness tip, or this week's fitness tip, is just really going to be about leg training. So leg training, specifically leg strength training, is one of the things that is directly tied to longevity. So people with stronger legs live longer lives, is what a study found. And so what they attributed this to was that if you have stronger legs, you know, you're obviously able to be more mobile, right? So you're walking, you're more active, but you're also able to do things that help you fulfill your life, whether it's going to see friends and family, etc., right? But being more mobile, being able to go outside, being able to do the things that you like to do helps to prolong lifespans. I think they're also just tying that the ability to be physically active helps the mental side of it. And so you're, you know, as you continue to age, more active and more getting more enjoyment from your life. So don't skip leg day. That's today's advice.
Sounds good, bro.
All right, man. Well, thank you.
Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. See you later.